Hello and welcome back to FPL Mate, the home of slightly above average FPL content, and I can't believe it, it's actually almost time for Game Week 31. It feels like Game Week 30 is only just started and it's actually not even finished yet, but we've seen at least one game from each team so far, so hopefully we can start making some judgments. Got absolutely loads to go through today, so I'm going to try and be relatively brief, but we know how that usually turns out. So today we're going to be talking about some Leno replacements. Obviously he's been injured. Some talk about strikers a little bit. What kind of strikers are we going to be looking to put in our teams over the next coming game weeks? As that's quite interesting at the moment, actually. And then we're going to be covering if Liverpool players are essential or not. Are they worth their price? Do we actually need them? Are they all fit? And then we'll be going on to captains, of course, the most important decision of anyone's game week. And some interesting picks there. Perhaps a little bit different to normal with captains, because usually you go for the same captains every week. But no, going to be a little bit different this week. But first of all, I do want to say quickly, if you haven't watched my videos before and you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing if you like what you see today. Plenty of FPL content, really helpful tips and stuff like that. I know if you're watching this video, you're interested in that stuff. And I'm aiming to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of this season. And I think it's possible, but I can only do it with your help. So thank you if you are considering subscribing and you do click that button and bell. So let's move on straight to our first topic, and we'll keep this brief because I know it doesn't apply to everyone, but we're going to be talking about Leno replacements. So obviously Leno's been injured in the game against Brighton. It looked quite bad, so we don't expect him to come back this season necessarily. So we're going to have to move him on if you have him, and we're going to have to look at some other keepers. So the first choice you could possibly have is Martinez. Now he's going to be the backup goalkeeper for Arsenal. When he came on, he didn't look too bad. I know he did concede those goals, obviously, but he didn't look too bad. It's not like he's a terrible goalkeeper, but the advantage to him is you've got a keeper in a team that hopefully you would expect to do a little bit better defensively than they have so far. You hope that improves, and perhaps there is some expectation that would improve. And obviously Martinez, he's a backup goalkeeper, you've actually got the cheapest starting goalkeeper in the entire game right there. I think he's at 4.2 or 4.3 right now. So he's going to be someone who you can free up a little bit of your budget to spend elsewhere if that's what you want to do, if that's what you need to do. Perhaps if you're looking to rotate two keepers, you could bring in Martinez, and then you've got a cheap backup goalkeeper who you can rotate with. Next up is Dubravka. Now Dubravka, he's had the most saves in the league with 118. Now only Leno comes close to that, and with him out, you know, Dubravka is now the certified king of saves in the Premier League, so he's going to be getting plenty of save points for you. Newcastle obviously kept a clean sheet at the weekend, so good for them. They're a very defensive team, but they do concede a lot of shots, and Dubravka usually saves those shots, so that is very, very good, very important stats that you're looking for in a goalkeeper. And then finally, and this is the move I'm going to be making because I have Leno in my team, unfortunately. So I'm going to be going for Pope, who's the top scoring keeper, as we know. He's a joint second clean sheets with Henderson. Only Alisson beats Pope's clean sheets, but Alisson has half the saves that Pope does. So Pope is a very happy medium between clean sheets and saves in, again, a fairly defensively strong team that seem to improve defensively throughout the season as well. So I think Pope is the best option. Burnley have a fairly good run of fixtures right through to the end of the season, so Pope is one of those keepers who you can just set and forget. You don't need to worry about a backup keeper too much. I think you could just take Pope for the rest of the season, so that's what I'm going to be going for, and that's what I recommend you do too. So let's move on to strikers. Now strikers is an interesting one because outside Jiménez, it's sort of like, who do you go for? There's a lot of question marks there, and I don't think this weekend helped too much in those decisions, so let's talk about that a little bit. So Jiménez, I would say, is essential. If you don't have him in your team and you want to replace a striker perhaps, I think Jiménez is the kind of person you want to be moving for. Obviously he's got this game against Norwich. Norwich looked terrible. I mean, they've looked terrible all season, but they've come back with absolutely, they've not proven that they've got any fight yet, so I would expect Wolves to absolutely mop the floor with them, as they look fantastic as well. But after the break, before the break, all the time, Wolves are looking absolutely excellent, and they've got a great run of fixtures. So Jiménez, you've got to have him. He's got the form, he's got the fixtures, he's got everything. Next, Aubameyang. Now, obviously, a lot of people had Aubameyang over the double, but it's kind of a case of stick or twist on him. He's had so many blanks now that do we trust him to get some goals eventually? But I've said in the last video I made, it's not like he's suddenly a bad player. It's not like he's never going to score again. You hope that eventually he'll come back to what he should be doing. It will start averaging out, or will regress to the mean of him getting goals, sort of, at least a goal every other game. So expected goal involvements for the 2 games from Aubameyang was 0.82, which amongst strikers was only beaten by Joelinton. I don't think I'd particularly fancy a punt on Joelinton considering his form throughout the entire season. But Aubameyang, although he played 2 games, that is still a fairly high expected goal involvement, and he's also a player who regularly outperforms his expected goals. So a 0.82 for Aubameyang is actually more like a 1.2 for most other players. He also had more than double the shots of any other player in this game week. So even if he did have 2 game weeks, he's got more than double the amount of shots. So he had 9 shots over this game week, 5 inside the box as well, which is the highest. Which is actually, this is really, really impressive stats. Jiménez expected goal involvement was 0.79, which is almost as good as Aubameyang over 1 game. So again, we would say that Jiménez is a much better pick than Aubameyang, but I don't think we can gamble on taking Aubameyang out, particularly when we can just as easily say Jiménez against Norwich this week. Well, Aubameyang has Norwich next week, so Aubameyang I don't think is a player you want to miss out on that particular game against Norwich. After that, you could perhaps look at moving him out, but for now I think he's a stick if you've got him. I don't know about bringing him in necessarily though, just because he is so very expensive. Ings resurgent expected goal involvement of 0.68. Obviously he did very well, he's got plenty of points as well, so Ings owners will be very happy. Before the break he wasn't looking so bright, so it was nice to see Ings looking very lively and perhaps becoming a valid option once again after his short break of not being a valid option. So I definitely want to think about, although I am a little bit concerned that Southampton don't have too much to play for, so longer down the line maybe Ings won't be such a good option. And then after that, there is no player that really stands out statistically speaking. I guess Hotter of Wolves also had the highest touches in the opposition's box with 11, and despite only playing 64 minutes. So that was the only other stat that sort of stood out to me from this from last particular game week that interested me at all, really. So we are in a bit of a sticky spot in terms of strikers. A lot of people are looking at Rashford, but the big consideration is that Rashford, although he's got 14 goals this season, 5 of those goals were from penalties, and now he's off penalties. That's now 9 goals in 24 matches, or I think that's right, that he's started. So this starts to look not so good when you think about taking away those penalties. That obviously he's not going to be taking them anymore. Bruno Fernandes is. Martial has got 11 goals and 3 assists. He's 1 million cheaper, and he's a midfielder. So not only is he going to be getting more points for those goals, he's got about the same assists anyway. He gets more goals. He's actually playing up front. So if you're going to go for a Man United striker, I would just not have the Man United striker and just change formation perhaps and move to Martial in midfield. He seems like genuinely a much better option across the season. So this is a big consideration with the penalty thing. So yeah, perhaps not Rashford. I'm not so keen on him, even though a lot of you I'm sure are. Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks okay. He could be a lot better in a game against, you've got some better oppositions against Norwich. What am I talking about? Norwich. Who's playing Norwich? I'm getting mixed up now. Someone's playing Norwich, someone's playing Bournemouth. It's Wolves that are playing Bournemouth. Sorry, I have a little bit of a slip of the tongue there. So Wolves are playing at Bournemouth. So that's the fixture you want to be targeting with Jiménez. So Calvert-Lewin's going to be against Norwich this week, of course. The dumb moment. He's going to be doing a lot better against Norwich than he did against Liverpool. I don't think anyone's really doubting that. Dominic Calvert-Lewin did look
he didn't look too bad against Liverpool, I'm not going to lie. So I do think we'd be harsh to write him off now, but that's the only data, obviously, we've got from this week. Chelsea, I think, are an absolute avoid. They're going to be rotating their strikers by the looks of things. Tammy Abraham has gone off the boil. I'm not convinced by him. I'm not convinced by Giroud either, particularly if he's going to rotate. So unless one of them can nail down some minutes, I don't really want to touch either of them, to be fair. I mean, if you're going to go for Chelsea, perhaps Pulisic is going to be the only option outside of their defence, so you might want to go for Azpilicueta or Alonso, depending on if he gets game time. Harry Kane looked rubbish. He really did look rubbish. I think he needs a little bit more time to get back fit and firing again. He just needs to play some games. So in the next several game weeks, I don't think we should be looking at Kane at all. If you want to go for Spurs, Steven Bergwijn looked good. Son, he looked okay, but he's played really well under Mourinho, so I do expect Son to pick up some goals as well. But again, that's not even a striker. So, and the only other player you might consider is Vardy. He looked pretty absent too. So overall, I'm sort of thinking perhaps it's two strikers up front that we want to be going for. I think we should be switching perhaps to 3-5-2s or 4-4-2s. There was a lot of clean sheets, remember, over this game week. But obviously this is one game week worth of data, so it's very difficult to make a definitive judgment. But that certainly is my thinking right now. So let's move on to Liverpool. Now, a few people have been asking me, are Liverpool essential? Now, in my wildcard drafts team, I didn't put a Liverpool midfielder, and I know that's a bit controversial, but Salah is apparently not even fit. He didn't even play against Everton. Mané, I don't think Mané looks anything special. So I think it's a case of when you're spending that much money on a player, think about if there's players that you'd rather have. For the same money, I'd rather have De Bruyne, definitely. I'd rather have Bruno Fernandes, definitely. Those two were going ahead. I'd arguably rather have Son. I'd arguably rather have Martial, who is a lot cheaper. So, when you're thinking about all these players who I'd perhaps rather have for much less money, is there really a need for Liverpool players? If Mané and Salah are going to be rotating, if they're going to be playing the roulette, who's going to score this week, who's going to score that week, then why not just pick a player who is going to be playing every week, who does and will continue to have something to play for? I think that's sort of the direction that I want to be moving in. Saying that, I do still have Salah in my team. I am happy to keep Salah for a couple of game weeks, just until Liverpool win the Premier League. But after they've won it, I really don't see a need to keep a major high-price Liverpool midfielder in your team when there are so many other options in midfield, and there really is. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think probably a keeper. Liverpool obviously a great defensive team, and that's not going to change. If anyone's going to rotate, it's going to be the forward players, surely, and the defence perhaps rotate a little bit less often. Aside from your defenders, perhaps Matip and Gomez are going to be rotating, so I'd completely leave them. So Trent, I think, is a keeper for now as well. But again, that could all change if Liverpool win the league and it starts rotating. It all suddenly becomes very different, and we can start redistributing the high prices these players cost into the rest of our team and start building a really strong team, which I think could actually prove long term to be a real advantage. So don't worry too much about Liverpool players. I wouldn't worry about bringing them in, and I'd definitely consider shipping them if you think you can use that money better, which I think there is potential to do so. So, with that covered, let's finally move on to captains for this game week. And my top pick for captain this week is Bruno Fernandes. Sheffield United, Aston Villa looked like they were going to score against them. They looked weak against Aston Villa. Newcastle, the lowest scoring team in the entire Premier League, scored 3 against them. And they've lost O'Connell to injury. They've lost Egan to suspension. They've lost Henderson because he can't play against his parent club, which puts Man United in a great position to actually batter Sheffield United. The other time that these two teams played, when Henderson couldn't play, they conceded 3 goals to Manchester United, which is sort of unprecedented in a Sheffield United team. So, well, obviously aside from this weekend, so it all suggests that this particular week, Sheffield United could be one of those weaker teams to target. And you've got Bruno Fernandes on penalties, involved in every attacking, or every attack from Manchester United, pinging the ball about, getting on the ends of things. He's looking really good. He's looking really sharp. I think Bruno is essential, up there with Kevin De Bruyne and Jiménez. So I think he's my top captain for this week. I think it's got to be done. Second captain pick is Jiménez. As I mistakenly said earlier, but I'll say it correctly now. They play Bournemouth. Bournemouth are looking rubbish this weekend again. I can't see them putting up too much of a fight against a Goliath attacker like Jiménez, who is just got the form, he's got the fixtures, he's got everything right now. So Jiménez, really good option. I think you're guaranteed to get a goal really in that game. So I think that's a pretty low risk captaincy. And the third option I've gone for, and who arguably could be a better option than Jiménez, is Doherty. Can you see Bournemouth scoring against Wolves? Not really. Can you see Doherty getting some assists, maybe some goals, whipping him some balls? Yeah, absolutely. So Doherty could arguably be a better option than Jiménez. I still think I prefer Bruno. Doherty, the only reason I've put him as third pick is because you don't captain defenders. It's like one of the rules of fantasy. I know rules are meant to be broken, and you don't get any differentials without taking a few risks. But yeah, so Doherty could be a really decent option, and I think those three are the ones I want to be targeting. I'm not convinced by Liverpool this week. I'm not convinced by Arsenal for very good reason. Manchester City have got a really congested fixtures. They've got FA Cup, they've got important games against Liverpool next week, and they're playing tonight. So, and then again on Thursday. So, I'm not convinced by them. I think there's going to be rotation. So yeah, perhaps outside bets, and maybe not even outside really. You could go for a Martial, I suppose. But I suppose those are the best choices, and I think I'm going to be going for Bruno this week. And this week, I'm actually going to take my own advice and go for the best captaincy pick, who I believe is Bruno. So there you go. That's the end of the preview. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please do leave a like. If you enjoyed it, extra amounts, please do consider subscribing, sticking around for more FPL content. There'll be plenty more to come this week. I've actually got a week off work, so I'll be banging out those videos left, right and centre. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one, mates. See you later.